Everything we know about computers is about to change. Everything we think we know about computers is about to change, and everything we think we know about the physical space is about to change with it. My name is Galit Ariel. I'm a techno-futurist that believes that technology is meant to amplify our physical space and our human behaviors. And today I'm going to walk through how immersive tech and augmented reality in particular is going to shift the way that we create and consume content. So the next space exploration that we're going to have is not going to be outer space, or in the virtual realm. I believe that the next space exploration and potential of researching the potential of technology will be right around us here on planet Earth. This is going to be an era where space itself will become an experiential platform. While you look around and might see an empty space, I see a blank canvas that is just waiting to be painted with new content, information, and experiences. So before we start talking about augmented reality, I want to clarify the whole AR, XR, MR, VR, XR, GR, RR that is going about. And that's especially aimed at the people in the industry because we also get it wrong. So there's a thing that was created in 1994 and does not need to be changed, and it's called the virtual continuum. And it talks about the relationship between the physical and the digital space. So on both sides of the virtual continuum, we're seeing physical reality that we all know and love, and it's identified by having physical content that is experienced within a physical space, like what we're having right now. And at the other side of the spectrum, we have virtual reality. And that means that we have digital content that is experienced within a digital space. So if you play a 3D video game using a headset, you are in virtual reality. Everything in between is called mixed reality. And that is because we literally mix a little bit of one with the other and create a new hybrid realm. Inside this space, there are two little pods that are augmented virtuality, or 360 videos, as some people say, or wrongly say VR. And that's when we actually take the content out of the physical world, but experience it in a digital space. So for example, if we capture a 360 video of Mount Everest, but experience it via headset, we're actually augmenting the virtual space because we added content from another source to it. And last, but not least, my precious augmented reality. And augmented reality describes a situation where you have digital content that is experienced in real time within the physical space. So you might ask, is this an augmented reality experience since it's projected on the wall? Well, this isn't, because it doesn't interact with us in real time. It doesn't react to our actions in real space. It probably sits somewhere between augmented reality and physical reality. Everybody clear? Yes! And what I really love about augmented reality is that it will create a new nexus space. So first of all, it's the closest one that we have to our physical space that we are biologically built to understand and be immersed in. And here's a spoiler for all the VR boys in the crowd. Physical space is the most immersive space that exists. It's also free. And we have a social platform built into it. Just saying. And what will happen with augmented space, that we will have this amazing crossover between the physical setting that we already have, digital content that we create and summon, and a mental understanding that will bridge between the digital and physical and create this new wonderland that will basically come to us. And this is where we're actually going to create the real World Wide Web. This is where the world itself will be connected. The digital content will not be constrained to flat two-dimensional screens, but will be interacted with in real time in the real world. So anyone here uses a voice assistant? It's AR. I'm just saying. Because it is digital interaction in real time. It is AI enabled, but it is AR. Augmented reality is really talking about the interface. It's about real-time interface. Well, AI is the engine that actually allows us to interface with it in real time. And everybody are talking about spatial computing because this is the next phase of computing. But I think they are focusing a little bit too much about the computing part and not enough about the spatial part. Because again, this is actually the point of augmented reality. It's going to happen all around us, three-dimensionally. So why don't we start simply with understanding the three-dimensional space around us? And this is why we're going to talk a little bit about theater today. So theater, what a bore, right? So we all think about theater like, this is what our parents used to do. This is kind of like an outdated cultural experience. You're wrong. So let's start with the fact that theater was the original pre-Kardashian drama series. And it's actually true. Greek theater was the original mass media platform that allowed audiences to debate and discuss religious and social paradigms. Actually, the word itself, theatron, means ways of seeing. It allowed people to see the world and explore it in new ways. And even if we talk about contemporary theater today, actually, I'm seeing so much amazing technological advancement coming from the theater world. This is an amazing example from The Tempest, created by the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, where they actually had a real-time avatar playing the actual Ariel in The Tempest. And they're doing a lot, actually, to push the boundaries of the theater. Because the physical or the original theater had to do exactly what augmented reality and immersive tech will need to do in the near future. It needs to grab your attention, keep it there, and compete with everything that happens around you. And it does it via multi-sensory means, through light, through sound, through special effects, through the setting. So it's actually a great parting point to understand how immersive tech will create new experiences. And we are seeing new spaces that are created through immersive tech and physical interactions. So Mia Wolf started as an art collective in Santa Fe, and now it's expanding globally. And you literally had to go to this theater, or this space they created with changing exhibitions, going through a washing machine hall. So you like slide through the hall, which is amazing. We also have things that are using interactive or immersive experience in a new way. Did anybody go to Sleep No More? Yeah, now how was it? It was awesome. It was weird and awesome. Humans, we like weird and awesome. So it's actually based on William Shakespeare's Macbeth. But the thing that happens, you go there, you get masked, and there's a nonlinear storytelling in a very, very, very different way. And through your excursion in the space and in the rooms, you get a different experience. And we're also seeing how content like museum and exhibition and interaction with nature and technology is changing. TeamLab is also expanding worldwide, world domination. And they really changed the way that we understand and interact with digital content. So that's already a great excuse. Another great excuse to look at theater is that William Shakespeare rightfully noted that all the world is a stage. To be truthful, we are all trapped in our own little reality shows, right? We are the heroes, or I am the hero, right? You are the spectators or participants, and everything is really about us, right? And it's not about being selfish or self-centered. It's because the way we decipher the world is through our sensory input. The only way that I can understand this reality is through the interactions that I have, my environment, and the way that I experience life, right? So, call me Galit Kardashian, but this is my show. So we're now going to look at the three core elements of content creation, theater and non-theatrical ways. So we're going to talk about the space, we're going to talk about the narrative, and we're going to talk about the hero of the little reality show that we're going to experience. So space-wise, I really think that augmented reality is going to split the atoms in the sense that it's going to change the whole way that we see the physical world around us. So point number one to anyone that is about to create anything with immersive tech and augmented reality is mind the space. Content is king, engagement is queen, but spatial context is everything. You will not be able to just plug and play any digital content in any space easily, because now you have a predetermined setting. And that influences a bunch of things. So first of all, we'll have to reimagine interaction. We are used to the clicks and the swipes of the screen. And I've seen also a lot of augmented reality interactions that are emulating that move. And that's okay, because that's a tolerable skill that we got from digital. But now we're dealing with physical space. Now we have to think about really tactile and haptic interactions that will have to be built into the experiences. We'll have to really consider liquid interfaces. Quality of the surface that we're creating that can work on flat and three-dimensional spaces, right? And can react to the qualities of the objects that we're manipulating. Space itself will become a substance. So there's nothing here, right? But what if there was? What if, while we walk through space, we would create digital assets and we'll have to meet and interact with them, right? What if we won't move from point A to B in the shortest way possible, but in the most experiential one? If we could leave notes and discover new digital breadcrumbs as we walk through the city. And we're going to look at in situ entertainment. So this is the latest from the Pink Floyd app, which, this is Canada. I come from Canada. This is last week. I know. So all of a sudden, you could be inside a music video. You can experience music and content all around you in your living room or in your neighborhood. And that is really interesting. Here's a really lovely immersive piece by Alexander Rosenberg, which is a site-specific installation. He basically had a pair of binoculars, old school artifact that was AR rigged, where you could actually look at the park around you and summon actual historical events that happened in that space. So all of a sudden, this space that you might know becomes a playground for hidden and new content that was part of the context of this space. It will also change the whole way that we think about space and boundary. Digital placemaking will become something that is really, really tangible. So one of my dear friends is Nancy Baker-Cahill, and she's the founder of the Fourth Wall app, which allows artists for free to create digital installations in space. This particular piece was created and pulled over the Mexican-American border. So all of a sudden, the idea of boundaries and borders, ownership, place, and placemaking is changing completely. And this is something we really will have to consider, because for now, we have subjective but shared realities. So this is my ideal Monday, right? Can't get the Monday blues like that. But this is my ideal Monday. Maybe you hate kittens. I don't know. I actually hate kittens. But what we really will have to understand in terms of the mechanics of augmented and immersive tech is not only how to opt in and out of these experiences, especially in public spaces, but also in intimate ones, but how can we create both separated public and intimate realities that can be navigated in and out? How do I share this with you? How do I opt out from your version of reality? That's a really big question that we have to solve, especially because you shouldn't think about augmented reality just as a feature that adds content to the space. Right now, it can actually copy and paste realistically objects in physical space that we can't tell apart from real assets. But it can also take things out, right? This is a really rough one, but perhaps if I'm wearing my headset, all of a sudden things disappear from my space, which, if you dated my ex-boyfriends, is not necessarily a bad thing. But when we start doing that, we are going into a really slippery slope. So this is actually an experiment that I've been running with the Danish computer vision guy, and we kind of hypothesized like what happens if we can use facial recognition to eliminate minority groups in space, like men, right? So I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see men. They smell funny, right? 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 We all know it's the truth. Not the worst thing. But you know, what happens when we start eliminating content from physical space? That can be really, really scary. I actually, in the beginning, I hypothesized, well, in really religious, extreme societies, it will be actually really good because in these societies, most definitely women are being excluded out of the public space. What if they don't have to wear burqa or cover themselves, and it will be the men's problem to eliminate them? And then I said, ooh, but what happens if I don't want to see immigrants? What happens if I don't want to see people from another race? Right? So we have to be quite careful about that. So this is the conclusion slide, if you haven't taken a photo. So basically, when we explore the augmented space, we really have to consider space as a canvas and what happens when we create the world as a digital sandbox. Think about out-of-screen activations and liquid interfaces. Think about trans spaces. How do we discover layered new and lost spaces? The mechanism of opting in and out of shared and intimate experiences, and the impact of real-time, real-life editing, right? So the next element is storytelling. Storytelling is dead. I mean, it's nice to tell a story, but now we're talking about something a lot wider than storytelling. We're really talking about storytelling in the real-world scenario. So it's really about experience-scaping. So when we have to really think about it, when we create storytelling and content, interactivity or immersive tech will not compensate for bad content. I feel that, especially with immersive tech, we're kind of in the early age of Facebook. Remember that all the brands were like, we have to have a Facebook page. And they did, and nothing happened there. But they did have a Facebook page. So I urge my clients and anyone I speak to worry less about the tactics of immersive tech and create a strategy for that. And maybe you'll tap into it today, maybe in a year, but really think about the strategy and how it fits your brand to create digital content within physical space. Or maybe not. It's also okay. So we really will have to first expand from the idea of storytelling to story world, right? To really think about what it means to have nonlinear, multiple narratives and story worlds, because all of a sudden we cannot control the voyage, we really cannot control the voyage of the audience within the space of our story. And this is actually one of the best diagrams I've ever seen in my life, one of the best strategies for content creation. This is Disney, 1967, pre-creating the Disney empire. This is amazing. So they already thought and mapped out the transmedia layer of their brand, right? So they didn't just think about the movies as the content. They thought about all the touch points, physical and digital, right? That their audience will meet this brand and the storytelling around it. And this is why they're so successful. And I really, truly believe that augmented reality is the ultimate storytelling platform for the experiential age. Because all of a sudden, we won't have to have a digital platform separated from our physical one. We can have a bridge flowing from our online content, online in real life, real time, and then physical content that we always need. Because let me tell you, people still go to Disneyland. People love technology, but they also need to touch and feel. and be within a physical space to be immersed in the content. We'll have new forms of entertainment, right? So as I mentioned before, we are really going to see, and I'm really seeing it actually, the traditional art forms from dance, from music, from theater, really starting to rethink the audience and the situ of their content. So we have a living room, kind of Shakespeare theater, but we're also seeing some more interesting things happening. So this is the AR Ghost Chase for Lego, another company that does transmedia really, really well. And what they've done is while you sit and wait to see the Lego movie, right, you actually experience a ghost hunt in the cinema prior to the movie. So they've done something really interesting where you sit in the cinema and the cinema becomes your little theater, and then you go back into the movie, and then you go home and buy the Lego set with the ghosts, right? So it's all really good. And that all works really well when you can control your space and your story. But we are in real life. That hardly happens. And that will also be a great challenge. What happens when you're in this physical space and all of a sudden people don't behave the way you want or people walk through the way we want? And we move to my Star Trek reference. So this is one of my favorite things. That was actually a Renaissance fair that was trolled by a bunch of Trekkies. Yes. So they faked a whole landing scene within the Renaissance fair, and they just went around and pretended to explore the space. And, right? I wish I was there. And it's really funny, and a lot of people are laughing about it, but this could also be a really, really interesting moment where storytelling and story clashes. And I'm not talking about the Marvel universe, but we will not be the ones telling the story. And the question will happen is like, what happens when these stories clashes? That's going to be the real interesting and fun part of it. It could also be, a noise fest. And we also have to be really, really careful because the more we add digital content into digital space, we're also in the danger of kind of overloading the physical space with all these experiences happening. We haven't seen it yet, but if you remember the Pokemon Go craze, entire cities were locked down, right? We have to also be conscious. Not everybody there are our users or want to be our users. What about the innocent bystanders? And also what happens to all these people that are suddenly bombarded with all this digital content that we're trying to sell them? So remember that digital junk is still trash, right? So be really mindful about the content you're doing. Because if you're not, you're gonna lose the magic. Now, experiences in general is magic. If anyone here does live events or live, Michelle, come on. Yeah, it's really like magic when it's done right. And it needs a lot of practice, you need a bag of tricks, and you need an audience that is willing to accept it. And the problem is when the magic is gone, it's gone. One mistake, and you see the wizard behind the curtain. Right? So you really have to think about pre, during, post. There's a lot of thinking and planning that goes into it in order to make it right. So don't do it lightly. There's nothing worse than creating a bad experience. So to summarize storytelling and experience-scaping, Instagram time, don't forget that moving from storytelling to experience-scaping means that we'll start mixing art forms, medium, content, and spaces. Don't just layer digital on digital on digital. That's not the case. We'll have to think about new entertainment, really look into traditional entertainment mediums that will reclaim their relevance and create richness to your content, and think about what happens when you mix story world as an opportunity and a challenge, and the magic of it all. And now we get to the point we love the most, ourselves, the superheroes within this little blue planet. So one of the most fundamental things to understand in immersive experiences is that humans will be the ones that will fundamentally change the way we create and consume content. And we'll see the emergence of new heroes and new world makers. So the first thing is to understand is that they will be the ones influencing it. So do respect the humans and mind them. we'll have a bunch of new heroes. So some of them might not be humans. We'll have still life coming to life. We're already seeing it a lot, especially in distilled drinks and beverages for some reason. And we're seeing a lot of storytelling coming about. This is actually my favorite case of Jack Daniels, where you have like a little flipboard. So they really took something from a physical world that we understand, and you have a little storytelling vehicle. And we also have, of course, our favorite virtual beings, or virtual humans, that are also being introduced into this world in interesting ways. So this is the new KFC Colonel Sanders, slightly cooler and tattooed, right? And I actually think it's a really cool way for brands to reposition themselves and have these virtual beings that represent their brands in new ways and for new audiences. And we shouldn't take the virtual beings lightly. They now have their own talent agencies. They make interviews. I think Micah has her own clothing line. They have millions of followers on Instagram. I'm not messing with them, right?
He obviously doesn't eat his own chicken.
What?
He obviously doesn't eat his own chicken.
Obviously, he's like, I know, still cute. And we'll have not just external digital beings, but alternative selves. So anyone saw Gemini Men? Yeah, good choice. I like Will, not the best movie he chose, but what they've done in this movie in order to show his future, his present and past self, is they actually did real-time tracking and managed to have him act as his younger self in the movie, and did it quite well. So all of a sudden, I think all the Botox manufacturers might drop their sales because, you know, I learned how to put my makeup from RuPaul's Drag Race, but it's a drag, right? I would love to have layers of alternate selves just being augmented on top of me versus me having to put, you know, the effort in doing it. And we also have to think not just about our present selves, but our future unpresent selves. So I call this phenomena the augmented zombie, right? And you probably saw some of these from Tupac to Michael Jackson, all these like zombie singer avatars going on tour, right? But the truth is the definition of zombie is the undead, unnatural thing. And this is also what we're currently creating. And the question is, do you want to be on your own funeral and show up there? And do you want your mom to have you in the dinner table forever? What AR will also do is it will extend our senses, obviously. We will be able to experience the world in different ways. We will be able to see the sounds and hear the colors. And my favorite artists that have been doing it for a while, and if anyone goes to South by Southwest, he has a retrospective exhibition, is Zach Lieberman. And we really talk about digital synesthesia, where, this is amazing, sound on, where we'll literally be able to travel through sound.
This is a test of talking and seeing what happens when we record audio in space. This is a test of talking and what happens when we record audio in space. Audio in space. When we record audio. Thank you. UK. Thank you. UK. Thank you.
Cool, huh? Let me show you something cooler. We will have real-time mind streaming that is also evolving. So what we have on the left is a clip that was presented to someone, and then they were wired up, and it was reconstructed by his brain activity. That's from 5 years ago, and it's a lot more sophisticated now. So what happens when we have real-time mind streaming in physical space, right? And it's a question, it's a big question, because people are weird. People do not act the way we want them to. Remember that. My conclusion is design for your weird uncle. When you design technology, your weird uncle is the one that's going to use it, so think about him. So when we explore the augmented self, we really have to think about the role shift from spectator to participant and narrator, non-human heroes and transhuman heroes, think about how AR will extend our senses and how we can experience the world in new ways, and how we must design for a weird uncle. So this is almost the end of my talk, but as great technologies do, there's always one more thing. And one more thing is, I think I talked here about all the different ways that we can create an amazing new platform for experiences. But we have to remember that good technology is also used by bad people, right? So I'm a creative. All I want to do is paint the world with digital things. And I'm sure everyone's going to love it. And I'm sure it's going to be awesome. But the truth is, as we've seen through other digital platforms, that we have to consider that with great power comes great responsibility. So I have like a little advice to finish off. And it's about how we should think about creating digital content and experiences in physical space. So first of all, we really have to make sure that everything we create is consensual and honest, right? Don't fuck with my reality and I won't fuck with yours. I think that's a fair rule. We can't create realities and alternative realities without the explicit and ongoing consent of the human, right? The second of all, we need to respect other humans and respect other spaces. Just because we can draw a penis on somebody's face, right, doesn't make it respectful. And also we have to consider existing ownership and behaviors and existing people in the physical space. We really need to try and create real value. And I'm not talking about monetary value, but again, digital junk is still garbage. Let's make sure that when we interfere with the physical space, we really create a lasting value and meaningful experiences. And that we really harness this not to hijack people's reality, but make them reconnect with other people, with spaces, and with themselves. And if we do that, we will create the best reality show ever made. Thank you.